It's better when you're doing
We're live. Yes, it's always better when you're doing live shows. Hey, welcome to Raw and Raw. Margaret, how are you going?
Hi, Kevin. I'm great. How are you? Happy New Year.
And to you too. I always love it when we're mid-chat and I forget to tell someone that I've hit go live and they're still finishing their sentence. It's always a very professional way to start the show. So make sure your phone's turned off. Mine rang yesterday.
I know. I just turned it down. I did turn it down.
So we're going to talk about resilience safety nets today. And I'm really excited about doing this because it's something that we all need and something that we so often forget. And now that I know what we're talking about because you just told me now, but up until then, I hadn't really thought what I have. So when you talk about resilience safety nets, what do you mean?
Okay, so resilient safety nets are those go-tos that we have in life when we're feeling stressed or we're facing adversity or big challenges in life and we need a little bit of help. So they're kind of like our go-to habits and our go-to behaviours or connections or whatever. And we were talking before a little bit of an analogy about them being the safety net under the trapeze at the circus.
I was going to bring that in and sound all intelligent at the very end, you know. You've just spoken. Oh, boy.
Sorry.
So they are.
So they're there for. So when you're up on the trapeze, what the resilient safety nets do are two things. One, yes, they can catch you when you fall. So if you need some help and you need some backup, they're there for you. The second thing that they do, which is really important, is they provide you with some confidence and a little bit of psychological reassurance that you've got backup, even if you don't need it. You know that backup is there. So you might actually engage with life and live life to the fullest and do a backflip on the trapeze that you might not do if you don't think the safety net is there. So this is why we need our resilient safety nets in life.
Fantastic. So what sort of things, so obviously people are going to have, some negative habits and stuff and others will have, and some positive stuff. When we're talking about go-tos, the bad ones that we all hear, you started bringing them up and I felt like I had to say D, all of the above. So that people can be a little bit more self-aware and catch themselves when they're doing these things. So what are those bad ones?
Yeah, so I think if we take some time and be honest with ourselves and finish this sentence, when I'm stressed, I've had a very bad week, I spend my weekend drinking, gambling, yelling at the kids, getting angry, blaming other people, whatever. A lot of negative behaviour.
To all of those things too, because I was going to say,
And
hiding, quite often hiding is another one. You'll find yourself withdrawing from normal social engagement
that's a big one. That's a big one. So withdrawing from life, not answering phone calls, staying in bed and getting under the doona and not engaging with life. And men do that a lot. I have to admit, Kevin, that's one of my negative go-tos. If I'm stressed, I tend to shut down and cut myself off. So that's a very common one as well. So what we want to try and do is change the end of that sentence so that when I've had a bad week or when I'm stressed, and I'm under the pump and I'm feeling very challenged and I don't know where to go, and then we engage with our resilient safety nets. So what they might be go for a long run.
For a second there, I thought you were looking for inspiration from me. And
I was going to ask you. So it might be go for a long run, ring my best mate, ring my coach, meditate, go camping, write in my journal, sit back and think about my life goals and put things in perspective, reframe the experience that you've had. So what we want to do is change that sentence so that the end of the sentence is positive things instead of those negative behaviours.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the positive, behaviours and things that we could be doing, it's about the relationships that you have. It's about exercise, as you said, a bit of mindfulness, a little bit of a little bit of self-awareness, and part of that self-awareness is, hey, if you're doing, if you find yourself doing more negative things, have a quick check-in and go, hey, is this because I've been triggered by something, so that you can help yourself get back on track.
Yeah, help yourself. That's a biggie, and you know, we actually have to do something about that. Stress is not necessarily a given. Pressure, challenges, adversity, and external forces on us are going to happen. But how we react to them and what we choose to do. So, for example, negative behaviours or negative reactions as opposed to the positive things. So we need.
Mike Haynes has even helped us with another negative, but it could also be positive, Mike, if we flip it, the food you consume.
Yeah, that's right. You might overeat.
Have you resorted to over-comfort eating and not having a balanced diet and stuff?
That's right. Staying on the couch all weekend under the doona, binge watching something on TV and ordering Macca's via Uber Eats all weekend. You know, that's not a good habit, is it? So definitely overeating food is one of those negative behaviours. But if we talk about the positive behaviours, and they're going to be different for all of us. Not everyone wants to go for a 10K run, as we talked about earlier. But there are some positive things in life that resonate with us, and we have to be in touch with that. So think about what you would like your resilient safety nets to be, and start working on those and put them in place. So things like supportive relationships, good physical health, so that you can go and do an ocean swim, or you can go to the pool and do some laps, that sort of thing, to relieve some of your stress. Get in touch with how you do your mind management. So things to slow down your mind so you can go to sleep, stop the rumination, stop your negative thoughts. So meditating and journaling, those sorts of things are really good for mind management. Other things like practical things. So having some money in the bank as backup might be something that helps you sleep at night. Having a stable home, perhaps doing some more training to upskill yourself, because if you're feeling unsteady about your work situation, upskilling yourself or making yourself more employable and more flexible in the workplace might actually be one of your resilient safety nets.
Mike has even got calling mum, and absolutely. And
calling mum's a good one.
And as we were saying, these are some of the things that, and I don't look after myself all the time. Recently had a bad experience with one of my dogs dying, and we do treat our dogs like they're our children. And so that was really horrific for me. And I didn't want to talk to anyone for a few days. So
so you withdraw.
I just withdrew.
Yeah, and that's quite normal, and we need to understand that that's how we react to certain situations, but then we need to make sure that we have some positive behaviours, because we can't stay in that state forever, can we?
Absolutely, and I have got out of that state relatively quickly. I can now even talk about it. So it is one of those things. The one thing you've talked about today, and at other times, you've talked a bit about meditation stuff. So let's put that away for next time you're on. Let's talk about some practical mindfulness things that people can do that aren't going to scare them. Okay, because so often when you start talking about meditation, people think that they've got to become a Buddhist monk and wear robes and sit with their legs crossed and all that sort of stuff, and it's not true. So let's have a bit more of a chat.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that next time and make it real.
So today, resilience, it was, hey, really it's around self-awareness. If you find yourself drifting to those negative patterns of overindulging, withdrawing, of doing the stuff that you know is bad for you, basically, have a look at what's triggered that, so that then you can come back and start picking up some good habits that when you're triggered, you'll naturally go to. Have I got the message right there?
I think you've got the message said perfectly.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your time. Margaret from Lumo Workplace. Now, Margaret, you've even got a little, your monthly newsletter that helps people with different tips and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get you to share that into this stream. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that so everyone can get access to that. Awesome.
Great. Okay. Thank
Thanks
you,
very
Kevin.
much.
It's a pleasure chatting.